All right, so the last section of Chapter 7 focuses on interpreting stock labels, so the labels that we'll see on manufactured drugs. So, for example, if we only have a generic name drug, only the generic name will be listed on the bottle. Whereas if you have a brand name drug, both the brand name and the generic name will be listed. Usually the brand name will be capitalized in bold, and then the generic name should be right underneath that, and usually it is not capitalized. So here's an example of, we have Seroquel. So this is brand name Seroquel. So we see the brand name at the top with the generic name, Ketapine, right below there underneath. And then also every drug has what we call an NDC or a national drug code. Usually you can find that right at the top of your bottle as well. Now the parts of an NDC number, I think we went over this last week. The first section of an NDC number is going to indicate the manufacturer or who produced the drug. The middle section of the number is going to indicate the product, so the drug name and strength. And then the last two digits is going to indicate the package size. So just because this says 10, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's only 10 tablets in the bottle. That's just a number that is going to designate to the manufacturer the size of the bottle. So you can see this bottle really has 100 tablets in it, so there's no correlation between that exact number and the number in the bottle. It's just kind of an identifier for the manufacturer. But make sure you know the three parts of an NDC number. You'll also always find the strength of the drug here. So tablets or capsules, that's usually just going to be in milligrams. Occasionally you'll see some in micrograms. Every prescription drug will also always say RX only. And then the manufacturer is usually also listed on the front of the label. So this one was manufactured by AstraZeneca. And then usually on the side of the bottle, sometimes you'll find this section by the by the barcode as well. But another number that's really important is going to be the lot number. Now, do not confuse this with the NDC number. They are not the same, okay? So I could have an identical bottle of Seroquel. I could have two bottles that look just like this. They would have the same exact NDC number, but they could have totally different lot numbers. And the reason for that is a lot number is assigned at the time that the drug was made. So just like when, you're making a batch of cookies, if we were making 3 different batches, we would give each batch their own number. That way, if in the second batch, say, we forgot to add an ingredient, well, we know that we would need to pull all of the cookies from batch 2. So that's kind of the purpose of a lot number. So lot numbers are given by the time that a drug was made. That way, if we knew that this lot or this batch of drug is, missing an ingredient or has too much ingredient added, we can pull all of these lot numbers for a recall and make sure that those get pulled off of the market. Okay, so I think we covered all of this section here on the left. Any preparation instructions or storage instructions. So if something needs to be refrigerated before use or reconstituted for use, you'll also see that on the label, usually on the side or the back of the container. And then also if we are working with a controlled substance, that would also be stamped on the bottle. It would say, C2, C3, or C4, something of that nature. All right, so we are going to look at another example here. So I am on page 140 in your book. This is a good note here. This little tech alert, it says, always read medication labels at least 3 times. Once before removing from the storage place, so when you're pulling the drug from the shelf. Once before you start counting, so before you even start counting the medication, you need to verify that you have the right drug. And then again, before passing it on to the pharmacist for the final check. Now, at least 3 times. I probably do this multiple times before I pass that off, just to ensure that everything that I have done is correct. So looking at this example here, first question, what is the NDC number? Well, the NDC is usually found right at the top above the drug name. Make sure you know the different parts. So like I said, we have the manufacturer, product, and the package size. How many tablets are in the container? Well, if we look here really close, down here it says we have 100 sublingual tablets. So there's going to be 100. What is the strength? Well, it says that it's a 0.4 milligram tablet. Who's the manufacturer? If you look closely here in this little green bubble, we see that Pfizer. It also says over here on the right side. Where is it manufactured? You'll have to read a little bit more carefully into the details here, but it says Vega Baja PR, which is Puerto Rico. What is the trade name of this medication? Now, the trade name is the same thing as a brand name. So make sure you know that. Trade name is going to be Nitrostat. The reason we know that is because we see 2 names here. So this has to be a brand name drug. So Nitrostat is the brand name. Nitroglycerin is the generic name. And then lastly, what are the warnings that must accompany a prescription of Nitrostat? Well, you're going to have to read carefully here along the side once again. It says, do not crush, chew, or swallow. It says, always dispense with package insert. Let's see. Keep this and all drugs out of reach of children. And then in the warning, it says, close tightly. Keep these tablets in the original container. So more specifically, all of the warnings are here. But any other alerts or anything, you'll just find those listed throughout the label as well. Okay, so I am on page 147. I'm going to go through these 2 examples on the post-test. So what is the brand name of the medication? Well, if I look here, I have 2 names. So I know this has to be a brand name drug. Brand name is going to be on top in bold. So Strattera. What is the generic name? Well, that's going to be right underneath the brand name. So we have atomoxetine. Who manufactures the medication? Well, right down here, I see Lilly is the manufacturer. How many capsules are in a full stock container? Let's see if you can see that. If you're following along in your book, you should be able to see it just fine. But up here, it says 30 capsules. What is the strength per capsule? Well, this is a 25 milligram capsule. What are the corresponding number codes for the following segments of the NDC number? So the labeler or the manufacturer is always going to be the first section. I think that's hard for you to see on there. Try to get it to focus. Yeah. So the NDC number again is up here. So the labeler code is going to be 0002. The product section is the middle section. So 3228. And then the package size, it's going to be 30. So now there's an example of where those last two digits actually matched with the actual package size. But like I said, that does not always occur. All right, and then let's take a look at this potassium chloride example here. What is the total strength of medication in the vial? So we need to read this here very carefully. It says you have a 20 ml single dose vial. It says what is the total strength of medication in the vial? Now this says here 2 milliequivalents in every milliliter, but what we're looking for is this 40 milliequivalents in the whole 20 mils. So it's going to be 40 milliequivalents. And if you wanted to leave that as 40, that's fine, or we could say 40 milliequivalents per 20 milliliters. Now it says, what is the total volume? So the volume itself is just in milliliters. So 20 milliliters is a unit of volume. Who manufactures the medication? Well, over here we see Hospira. What is the dosage form? So dosage form is how the medication is manufactured. So like a tablet, a capsule, a cream. If we read on here, it says for injection, it says up here for intravenous use. So this is an intravenous injection, or you could say an injectable solution. Either one here would work. So I prefer injectable solution. This is what is the major warning on this label? So if you read through the side here, let's see. Well, the major warning, this is here in red, says must be diluted before use. So that's very major because if we didn't dilute this, we're going to be giving somebody a very high dose that is not needed there. So must be diluted before use. All right, and then lastly, I just wanted to draw your attention to page 148. I really like this bulleted list here, just kind of reviewing a list of rules that you should follow when we're interpreting labels and orders here. So number one, always read the entire label or prescription or med order before making decisions concerning anything that you're going to dispense. So read thoroughly before you do anything. That's why I always have you read your labs before you start. Solid medications are usually ordered in the weight of medication per tablet or capsule. So usually we'll see milligrams or micrograms, whereas liquids are going to be found as weight per volume. That's very important for when we get into this supplemental math lecture that I'm going to go through after chapter 8. The generic name is usually written in lowercase, whereas the trade name or the proprietary name, also known as the brand name, will begin with a capital letter, may be followed by the R symbol as well if it's a registered trademark. Any questions you have about prescriptions or med orders, always ask the pharmacist. You know, they would much rather have you ask questions than for an error to occur and then have to go back and fix it later. And then, like I mentioned earlier, always read your label at least 3 times before you pass that on to the pharmacist for the final check.